back to Unsolicited Film Reviews. I'm Zach Miller. He is Martin Cook. And today we're continuing our TV trend we've been doing for the past couple of weeks. And, we've already talked about all the summer blockbusters coming out. So why not delve deeper into this realm of the idiot box? And today we're going super dramatic. We're going to talk about the best supporting actors and the best lead actors in drama.
Characters, not actors.
I did that same thing last week too. Thank you for
Yeah.
correcting me. Yes, it would be a completely different podcast otherwise. So yes, characters of the 21st century. So we're getting really into the meat of prestige TV. But like we said last week, or the 2 weeks before, we're not going to be covering like The Sopranos or anything that started pre 2000.
Yeah.
So first up, we have just one thing of industry news, and it's a pretty big one though. Stephen Knight of Peaky Blinders fame, the creator slash writer of almost every episode, is officially signed on to write the Denis Villeneuve James Bond movie, and color me stoked.
Yeah, this is very exciting news. I mean, as you'll see as we go through this list of some of our favorite characters, we're both big fans of the Peaky Blinders, and the news on this just keeps getting better and better. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, I was extremely excited when Denis Villeneuve was named as the director. And so this things are looking up for the next iteration of the Bond franchise. Now we just need an actor.
Yeah, but again, it's nice that they're putting like the pillars into place before they choose the actor.
Yeah, it is actually.
So they have like they have a vision before they choose the actor. So that,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited. And Stephen Knight is such a uniquely British voice, and you need a couple Brits in there to make it authentically English because that's
Exactly.
James Bond.
Yeah.
So then, box office review.
Yeah, so the big one at the box office this past weekend was Fantastic Four. So Fantastic Four First Steps, their kind of Marvel's attempt to revitalize the Fantastic Four franchise, bring it into the MCU, and it did quite well. Made 117.6 million on the weekend. It's over 250 million worldwide already. I wasn't totally sure how people were going to respond to the retro feel. It's sort of set in an alternate sort of 50s type world, but people liked it. I saw it. I thought it was quite good. Love the actors. So I'm excited that Marvel can make decent standalone movies again. We'll just see if this lasts or or if they keep going down the tubes again. But so far, so good. Number two, another superhero movie coming in first and second for probably the first time in a while at the box office. Superman in its third weekend, another almost 25 million and up to over 513 million worldwide. Third place, Jurassic World, still holding strong. People love them dinosaurs, or the whatever weird kind of fake dinosaurs they made for this one. 13.2 million on the weekend in its fourth one. It's doing very well. It's over 720 million worldwide at this point. Fourth place, F1 in its fifth weekend, so still holding on the charts there, another 6 million. And it has basically the exact same amount as Superman, but in 2 more weeks, and it's got about 513 million worldwide. And fifth place, one of the new entries from last week that I slagged in this section last week, and that's the Smurfs, which
Mm.
it's made 5.5 million, and it's about 72 million worldwide, but certainly nothing that anybody's going to remember.
So yeah, and I think what four of those five are on your draft list.
Three of the five: Fantastic Four,
Okay,
Superman, and F1. Yeah.
okay,
But the biggest
okay.
one of those is so in terms of grand totals is Jurassic World, and that's one that you had, and you were already kicking my ass with the
Oh right,
Olympics
okay,
picks.
yeah.
So I'm unfortunately still not making up enough ground.
Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to rub it in. Okay, so coming this week, we have The Bad Guys 2. It's basically animated anti-heroes with an all-star cast. Sam Rockwell leads it, and based on a series of kids' books. And The Bad Guys 1 did very well in 2022, especially since we were just coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Then we have The Naked Gun. Honestly, if this movie wasn't called The Naked Gun, I think this looks like a dumb original farce with Liam Neeson going outside of his comfort zone. Comfort zone. As it stands, I already hate this movie though.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we needed a Naked Gun. Like I don't know. Most of the people who are gonna go out and see it probably don't really remember the original, but well, let's see. I don't know. Though the one good thing I think that's come out of this is apparently Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson are dating now. So that's not a couple I ever expected, but good for them.
Whoa. Yeah, I did not have that on my 2025 bingo card. God
No.
damn. Wow. Okay, then we have Sketch from Angel Studios. It's an animated fantasy, and it's I believe, their first kind of live action animated hybrid, and it looks kind of dumb, but what are you gonna do? Then we have ArchitectCon. It's an A24 documentary about the history of architecture, and it's a limited release, but it looks like A24 is branching out into the documentary space, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then last we have Sunset Boulevard 75th anniversary re-release through Fathom Events, and I'm gonna try to go out and see it because I've never seen Sunset Boulevard in theaters, and it is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'll try to go see it, but yeah,
Yeah, if anybody hasn't seen Sunset Boulevard, it's even if you can't go out and see it in theaters, I'm not sure that I'll get a chance. But go ahead and do yourself a favor and watch it. There are some great old movies out there for anybody who wants suggestions of interesting ones. Check out on Spotify our old Century series where we were going through decades of movies from the 20s on. And I believe Sunset Boulevard was in
oh
our
yeah, it was,
list.
it was.
So yeah, it's a fantastic movie.
All right, so let's get into it. We There will be minor spoilers here and there, but most I'm sure most of you that are watching or listening to this have seen most of these, and if not, just beware. And we're not gonna like blow out everything, but
Yeah,
we have
we'll
to
try
talk
to
about these
avoid some
characters.
major spoilers, but
Yep,
we're talking about the characters, and sometimes, yeah, what's important about the character is kind of the arc or something, some of the important things that happen to them. So
absolutely. So we're starting out with supporting characters. We're gonna do 10 apiece with 10 supporting characters and 10 leading characters, and we're gonna start with supporting and kick us off, Martin.
all right, so you had to know this was coming at some point, so might as well get it out of the way early. I'm picking a character from Andor, and I'm picking Luthen Rael, who is played by Stellan Skarsgård. He is kind of the leader of the rebellion behind the scenes, and this is just an incredibly complex character. He's a guy who's playing a double life. On his public face is as this genial antiquities dealer. Maybe not entirely all there, certainly not the devious person that he is, but he's also fully in on what being in the rebellion means. Like he's accepted that he's going to be the one that's going to be the asshole. He doesn't
Mhm.
care if people hate him for making the hard decisions he has to make. He's actually incredibly unselfish because of that he is only living for the rebellion. He realizes that he basically doesn't have a life. He gives this great speech in the first season where he talks about that, all the things that he sacrificed. And really, what he's sacrificed is having any semblance of a normal life, any semblance of love or warmth in his life because of what he has to give to the rebellion. And then in the second season, we learn a little bit more about his character with more of his backstory, where he came from, what led him to that rebellion, and his connection with the shop's assistant, Clea, who also turns out to be an interesting character in her own right. But just a fantastic character and one of the absolute highlights of Andor.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough of Andor to form a solid opinion, but I love a Skarsgård, and
Hmm.
he's the family patriarch. So
Yeah.
um, every time every time we talk about Andor on this podcast, uh, it's nudging me a little bit more and a little bit more. And I think I forgot if it was last week or the week before, but yeah, I actually have broken the seal, watched the first episode, liked it. It's just I've had some,
Yeah.
life
There's a
going on, and
lot going on in the summers. Yeah.
yeah. So I definitely will get to it eventually. Maybe it'll take till winter, but so then we have Alfie Solomons. Tom Hardy is the actor who plays him in Peaky Blinders. Tom Hardy is a powerhouse in just about all of his projects, but he absolutely owns every scene he is in this series as a Jewish gangster and probably the main antagonist to Tommy
Mm.
Shelby in Peaky Blinders. Alfie is one of those guys who is so like his rival that they can't help but hate slash respect one another, which is always just a great dichotomy for any characters and um, entertainment. And they're sometimes bitter enemies, sometimes reluctant allies, but they're two sides of the same coin for sure. Tom Hardy's accent, his mannerisms, his monologues are all just absolutely amazing. And just my favorite scene between Alfie and Tommy, played by Cillian Murphy, is when Tommy's son is missing and they're in this garage and they just come to they don't come to physical blows, but verbally it's one of the most amazing scenes I've ever seen in any television show. And my favorite quote of Alfie in this entire series is, "I want him to know that his anger is unfucking justified."
Yeah, this is a fantastic character, and as you say, Tom Hardy is just always such a presence on screen. And in this, it really works perfectly because obviously, as you say, he's kind of a big antagonist for Tommy Shelby, who's such an an all kind of consuming presence most of the time anyway, that you need somebody that's going to be equal to that. And the Sullivan's character is he's interesting because he's so intimidating, which he needs to be, but at the same time the way his mannerisms are, he almost at times seems like socially inept or
Mm,
confused, but he isn't because he knows exactly what's going on in every moment. But he's kind of like playing with this, like the way he just talks and throws things off and just tosses. It's such a good character. All right, so my next one is Bubbles from The Wire. Now, really, this whole supporting section of characters could just be characters from The Wire because there are so many
mm.
great supporting characters. And the one most often named as a great character is Omar, who, yes, Omar is a fantastic character. But because he gets all the press, I wanted to highlight another. And so that's why I wanted to talk about Bubbles. And Bubbles is maybe one of the few characters with a bit of a positive arc in the show. I mean, not to give away too much, but at the very last image that we see of him in season 5 is maybe him on steps, like, well, literally on steps, but maybe getting back into the good graces of his family. But even then, we know because of everything that's come before that it all rests on a knife edge and it could all
Mm.
just be taken away. Like between his own choices and then the circumstances of what living in that in Baltimore in this has meant, and just bad luck from time to time just grind him down over and over and over again, and he comes so close to giving up so many times, but yet he doesn't. There's just
Mm.
something so resilient about him, and he maintains, I don't even really want to say optimism because it's not quite optimism. He's very realistic about the world around him
Sure.
and the
Yeah.
horrible shit that's there, but he still keeps going. And I think that just makes for such an incredible, compelling character. And at the same time, his interactions with the police and other people, he can be funny, he can be charming, even though at times he's just this absolute mess of a human being.
Yeah. He's such a complex, tortured character,
Yeah.
and he's really just a good man trying to deal with the circumstances that he's been dealt. And while he is a heroin addict, and I'm sorry, did you mention that he was a police informant?
No, I said he worked with the police, but yeah,
Oh, okay,
but yeah,
yeah.
or his interactions with the police. But yeah, he's a
So
he's a
yeah,
stooge.
that's why his entire character just lives on a knife's edge because he's running that fine line between either being caught by the cops or being killed by anybody that he's informed on,
Yeah,
and yeah, just such a
and the system just
interesting.
keeps letting him down over and over again.
But again, he's kind of inspiring, as you said
Yeah,
too, because he's not like naive, but optimistic. I guess that is the way to put it. Like he's just trying to build a better life for himself in a world that can't really allow that.
yeah.
And so we have Joffrey Baratheon. Huge change of pace. I think what you said about The Wire, great supporting characters could apply to all these in Game of Thrones as well.
That's true.
So Joffrey, played by Jack Gleason for the first four seasons of Game of Thrones, in a world chock full of complex characters, the Boy King of the Seven Kingdoms is fairly one note, but he's so deliciously evil and one of the greatest TV villains of all time. He's pretty much the primary villain until his very timely demise early in season four. Again, minor spoilers here.
Yeah.
So he's not so secretly the bastard son of twins Cersei and Jaime Lannister, who I'll admit are much more well-rounded characters, but Cersei and Jaime underwent the worst character assassinations I've ever seen in a final season, so I couldn't in good conscience nominate them.
Mm.
Anyway, Joffrey is pure evil. Other baddies like Tywin, Roose Bolton, Walder Frey, etc., are all driven by ambition, pragmatism, past slights, etc. But Joffrey is just a sadistic little prick.
Yeah.
And- but he never quite sinks to the level of cartoon villain the way that Ramsay Bolton would come to be in later seasons, and let alone the straight up comic book villain that was the Night King, aka Ice Darth Maul. But I don't think I've ever loved to hate any character in any medium more than the late King Joffrey Baratheon.
Yeah, again, I mean, big spoiler, but at this point, Game of Thrones has been out for a long time. But there are villains that you love to hate, and then there is just the visceral reaction that so many people had to Joffrey throughout the first four seasons. You may have seen people may have seen some of those reaction videos to things on YouTube, and people reacting to various episodes as the show was coming out. Some of them were huddled in bars, some of them were in different people's houses, and I don't think I've ever seen people be so excited and so happy to cheer somebody's horrible, gruesome death as they were when Joffrey finally bit it. Because, as you say, he was sadistic. He was just this, yeah, just this spoiled little shit who got everything, but it still wasn't enough and just really needed to grind everyone down around him because really he's such a small person that and obviously there are people like that out there in real life. I mean, maybe not quite to the level of villainy of Joffrey, but he was, yeah, just one of the great villains in TV. My next character is kind of the opposite. He is, and that is Jim Hopper from Stranger Things, played by David Harbour, because he is almost an everyman in extraordinary circumstances.
Sure.
Like he's the sheriff, so he's got some kind of authority, but yet he keeps getting undermined because he's just a small town sheriff and there's bigger concerns around him. He's kind of a loser, but he's also somebody that people look to for help and people rely on. He's got this like gruff exterior, but he also becomes a completely sort of unwitting parent and is completely out of his depth, but still has that heart that he wants to try to do the right thing, even though if he's totally fucking up parenting. So he's just a really interesting and great character, and in many ways is the heart of Stranger Things and
Mhm.
has been throughout five seasons. I wouldn't even say he's not really even a moral compass. He's just an everyman Like
Yeah.
he'll fuck up, he'll try, but he's sort of trying to do the right thing, even if that isn't always the best thing. He's just a very good supporting character that kind of ties everything together in that show.
Yeah, the show itself does a good job of paying homage to 80s sci-fi without becoming a straight up copycat.
Mhm.
And same goes for Hopper, because the character could have easily been a stock character and a stereotypical small town cop, but Hopper has layers. And while he does start out as, the alcoholic small town sheriff who's constantly being undermined by the feds that come in, the nameless, faceless guys in sunglasses and suits come in all the time. And that's a very Spielbergian trope. But
Yeah.
yeah, but Hopper does stand out as a very solid character, and yeah, definitely the best supporting character in Stranger Things, I think. So, back to Westeros real quick for
Just hop between. Yeah.
for Arya Stark. Maisie Williams was nominated for 2 Emmys for Best Supporting Actress in a Drama. Arya starts out as a plucky moppet from our favorite Northern Noble House of Stark, youngest daughter, of course, of Eddard and Catelyn Stark, sorry. Um, After her world is completely shattered and the majority of her family is slaughtered, Arya refuses to remain a victim. She winds up becoming a tough as nails assassin, and while the writers of the show failed to utilize her magic face changing abilities in any real meaningful way, I don't blame her for that. She even managed to render the entire existence of main character Jon Snow completely irrelevant. Yay. So, despite the writing taking a nosedive in the later seasons, Arya remained one of the few constant positives. Her interactions with everyone from Syrio Forel to the Hound to Jack and Hagar to Brienne to Gendry
Mm.
all, all helped build a lost little girl into one of the fiercest warriors in the world of Westeros.
Arya is a great character, and she is. It's just a little bit hard to tell in some of these shows that are really ensemble casts, but she is almost close to being a main character in my
Mhm.
mind because she's one of the ones that, again, no spoilers, but she lasts to the end of the show. She kind of is a through line in a lot of the stories, but she is great, and I think she could be summed up with a little conversation that happens right in the first season when she's talking with her father, and her father's talking about how, oh, she'll be a lady and she'll marry a lord and have kids, and they'll be little lords and whatever, and she just looks at him and she is like, no, that's not me. And that just sums up her character so well. And then, as you say, like all her interactions with other people, I think some of the best in the entire show was her interactions with the Hound that
Mhm.
continue on for about a season and a half, where they're kind of traveling around together, and she's learning from him, and he's kind of, his personality is changing a little bit from kind of looking after her as well. It's just a great pairing through many, many of those scenes. My next character is Polly Gray, going back to Peaky Blinders. Point out your shirt for those
Yeah,
watching
the
on YouTube.
garrison in
So,
Birmingham.
in Peaky Blinders, Tommy Shelby is the boss, but Aunt Polly is the real head of the family.
Yeah.
She cracks heads when she needs to. She always pushes people to make the right decisions, or at least the right decisions in her mind, not necessarily the right things to do. She's tough as hell, but she cares deeply about her family, especially her son. And you'll see from the picture I put up here, she's always got incredible style. She's just a stylish woman.
Are you doing with the one with does she have the glasses on?
It's one where she's in a suit and she's leaning on the fancy car,
Okay.
um, and she's got the gloves and everything else.
Oh, okay.
And unfortunately, Polly Gray's played by Helen McCrory. Helen McCrory, R.I.P. She died in 2021 of breast cancer. So the Polly Gray character wasn't in season 6, and obviously won't be in the upcoming movie. But for the 5 seasons she was there, she was just an indelible and character in Peaky Blinders, and just an absolute fucking force in that whole world.
Yeah, Helen McRory was incredible, absolute fucking powerhouse.
Yeah,
Her absence in season 6 was a massive hole that the writers, to their credit, actually didn't even try to fill.
yeah,
Um, and she's just as tough, ruthless, and fierce as Tami, and even more so in a lot of cases. So yeah, just a fucking amazing character, and yeah, Peaky Blinders could fill up a supporting
yeah. We've got
list
it.
of it itself.
We've definitely
So
got a few. Yeah, there's this one great scene where I can't even remember what season it's in, but where one of the young women tells her, "Oh, behave," and she's like, "No, I am not going to behave. I'm going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to whatever. But the one thing I am not going to fucking do is behave." And
mm,
that is just so Polly Gray. She's going to do things her own way.
yeah, it's just amazing, amazing character, and just gone too soon. Because
Yeah.
I can only imagine if she would have survived and done season 6 and the new movie, how much she would elevate the project. But I'm sure it's still gonna be good because season 6 is
Yeah.
awesome. And I'm sure. So okay, then we have Peggy Olson, played by Elizabeth Moss in Mad Men, the OG girl boss of Prestige TV. Moss was nominated 6 times for Best Supporting Actress Emmy, but never took home the statue. She appeared in 88 of the 92 episodes of the series, second only to, of course, John Hamm. Don Draper's secretary turned protege, who wound up being his closest friend slash almost daughter figure. Peggy has one of the greatest character arcs in TV history, going from timid, subservient secretary to one of the best young minds in the heavily testosterone driven arena of Madison Avenue advertising.
Mhm.
Her relationship with Don forms the emotional core of the series, really, because he shows her his true self, a side that he shows only 2 or 3 other characters throughout the entire series, but especially Peggy. They laugh, drink, cry, and share their secrets and ambitions with one another. And she's basically the polar opposite of Don's wife, Betty, and I think that's why he respects Peggy and doesn't respect his
Mhm.
wife at all.
Yeah, nor his second wife,
Oh yeah, well, yeah,
for that matter.
or
But
basically
you're,
any woman, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, there is that.
yeah,
Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, she gains his respect in a way that, as you say, yeah, almost no other women in the entire series do. Maybe one or two, but it's you're talking about the character arc and how she starts out as this timid character, and that's absolutely true. She's in the first couple of scenes, she's sort of being cajoled into having sex by one of the worst characters in the whole show, and she just doesn't have the self-possession at that point to say
mm,
no. She kind of thinks maybe that's what she wants. She likes the attention. And as the character changes over the seasons, you just see how that could never happen to Peggy in, say, season 5. That's just
hmm.
so far from where she ends up. It is just a great character arc. And then when her and Dawn inevitably clash over business, it really is almost a clash of kind of equals, because she has come up so much. And when, yeah, she kind of wants to go off on her own, and Dawn was always thinking that he'd kind of have her around, and that doesn't happen because she's become so independent and such a strong free thinker on her own. It's great.
Yeah, and she because yeah, and Don is so insecure at that point because she is the future and he is already the past.
Hmm.
And yeah, one of my favorite scenes in the entire series is between those two where they're in his office and she's like she's bitching about how she's not ascending in her career as fast as she wants to. And she's like, "You never say thank you." It's like, "That's what the money's for. I pay you give me ideas, I pay you.
Yeah.
You should be thanking Jesus as well as me." Or, I'm paraphrasing, but for every day that you wake up. Yeah, just phenomenal scenes all the way around.
Yeah. Great character. All right, my next one is the one that I, when we were coming up with our lists, I claimed right off the bat because I love this character so much. And that's the Dowager Countess Violet Crawley from Downton Abbey. She is obviously played by Maggie Smith. I've talked about how much I love this character before and how Maggie Smith is great. She is just the character is just she's old. She's so damn set in her ways. She doesn't suffer fools gladly. Like every remark, everything that comes out of her mouth is cutting and witty. It's also just every scene with her is pure comedy. Like it's whether she's insulting someone or she's baffled by things in normal modern life that are changing all around her, or even baffled by things in a lower class. Like there's this one thing where somebody's talking about doing something on the weekend, and she's like, what is a weekend?"
All this talk about jobs and weekends.
Yeah, just, she's so good. And then obviously her fights with her sort of relative, and then their friendship as they go on. The other Mrs. Crawley. It's just a great relationship, and yet they still. She's again, she found somebody as the show goes on, they become friends because she's found a good foil. She's found somebody who will fire back at her and stand up. And so it's not just one way anymore. They can lob sort of insults back and forth at each other, and she loves it. That's what I like about it so much. She likes that interplay, even though she
Sure.
pretends to not like it. It's clear that as they become friends, that's what she really wants. She wants that kind of interaction with somebody.
Yep.
Just a delight, that character and Maggie Smith's performance.
Yep. Yeah, there's nothing like a crotchety old bitch with no fucks to give.
Yeah.
And she embodies that to a T. Yeah, and this again, minor spoiler, but this is beyond the TV series. The second movie really suffered from her absence, is because but she must have been about 120 years old by the time the series ended because the series started with the sinking of the Titanic in 1912 and they were all the way up into the 30s, I believe,
That's
and
true.
and she had to be in their 80s at that time, at least the character was. So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I understand the inclination to keep her on because she's the best character in the show, but at some point she does have to meet her
Yeah. It
demise.
becomes, yeah.
But yeah, such a absolutely brilliant character and brings levity to a show that tends to be a little bit melodramatic because it
Yep.
is at its heart a soap opera, but uh she just brings it every fucking scene she's in.
Yeah.
Whether it's a drama scene, comedy scene, everything, yeah. So then we have our last supporting character, Gustavo Fring, aka Gus Fring, by played by Giancarlo Esposito in Breaking Bad slash Better Call Saul. And this one's kind of a cheat code because Gus Fring was so prominent in both Breaking Bad and its prequel Better Call Saul, but he was amazing in both. And he was actually nominated for an Emmy twice, once for Breaking Bad, once for Saul. And he was like the gentleman drug dealer, cold, calculating, ruthless, but really a businessman at his core. He's not afraid to resort to violence, but he's not wanton with his use of it. He's like the anti Tuco Salamanca,
Yeah.
and his motives actually stem from the ongoing feud between him and the Salamanca family, who killed his partner slash lover back in the day. And he's so unlike your typical crime lord slash drug dealer. If meth was legal, he'd just be a legitimate businessman. He's much more Michael Corleone than Tony Montana.
Very good comparison. Yeah. And I think, and you can just see how much of an important and interesting character it is in how many copycats it's sparking. Like every show these days has, as it seems, has somebody, a villain character who's kind of like him, who, comes off as very serious and a businessman, but is really cold and cutting and evil underneath. It just seems like there's a lot of these kinds of things, but his character was the one that really made its mark. And as you say, yes, he's a businessman. The first time we ever meet him is just as the owner of a chicken place, a fast food chicken place. And he comes out in the first few scenes. That's all he's doing. But all it takes is one moment for Walter White's character to kind of step over the line. And then you get those dead eyes and the cold
Mm.
stare and speaking very deliberately. And it just it's so incredible that he can just be this, nice, oh hey, here's your chicken, and then flip a switch. And
Mm.
he is this just absolute cold-blooded well, yeah, villain, I guess, in show terms, but really this cold-blooded leader of a cartel. It's incredible.
Yeah, speaking of flipping switches, the scene with him and Victor,
Yeah,
whew, that was wild.
yeah,
And man, Gus scares me, so I think we're gonna need a drink.
yeah.
So we were pitching things back and forth a little bit this week because we have a couple of really interesting lead characters coming up, and most of them are pretty big drinkers. So I pitched a martini for Mad Men, but Martin, you came back at me with a much more suitable drink for Don Draper, which is his old fashioned.
His
So
old
you want to
fashioned.
walk us through this one?
Sure. So the first thing you're going to want is a teaspoon of sugar. I'm actually using just a sugar cube that I'm going to try to mash up in the bottom of my glass here. You can use, yeah, just kind of regular sugar. Oh, geez, maybe I should have mashed that up beforehand. I'm using some raw cane sugar just because I like it better.
Oh,
And
that's what I'm doing too. Yeah, nice. Okay.
yeah, there we go. All right. Yeah, I definitely should have pre-mashed that sugar cube. That is hard and not easy to break up. And then you'll want some, well, I'm going to put a few ice cubes in there. Then you're going to want some of the Angostura bitters, a few dashes. It's kind of how many ever you want. I mean, it can be anywhere from sort of 3 to 5 dashes, maybe. So 1, 2, that's probably enough. You don't want too much. You just want a little bit in there. And then it calls for 2 ounces of bourbon or whiskey. I'm going with Canadian Club here.
All right,
Of
I got
course, my
Woodford Reserve, and it's another war of North American whiskeys.
it is. Yeah,
Tends to be the case when we drink whiskey on this podcast.
yeah. Although
I
I believe that Don Draper actually does drink Canadian Club. So
uh,
there's one for the yeah, one for the Canadian guys. And we actually can't get US liquor here anymore. It's not being put on shelves with all the stuff going on. We don't
wonder
need to
why.
get into
Okay.
that. And it also just calls for basically like a teaspoon of water added to it, just to, kind of release the taste a little. But you don't really need to do that so much the when you've got the ice cubes, but I'll just put a little bit of water in.
Plus,
Oh,
both of our abodes are officially in the 80 degrees Fahrenheit mark, so
yes,
I think these are gonna melt pretty quickly.
I think so. Yeah, my yes, I'm in my new place. As you can see, I'm still not totally unpacked, but sort of getting there. Put this bookshelf together today. But yeah, my air conditioning doesn't work. And then just a little orange peel twist, basically. I'm never totally sure how to do this. I'm just going to use a peeler though.
Yeah,
That
I'm just using a slice because why not?
digs in enough.
And then I'm throwing a maraschino cherry in there because that's what I always do because I can't get rid of this fucking jar. Maraschino cherry.
So then, yeah, you put your orange peel in there, and there you go.
All right,
Is
let's give it a taste.
that is the old-fashioned Don Draper style. Let's see now if that,
Yep,
yeah, that sugar seems to have kind of melted itself. Or that
that
sugar
tastes like
cube.
an old fashioned. That's for sure. That's the first one I've ever made by hand, though. So good pick. And I'm working
Yeah,
on our
it's
working on.
pretty straightforward, but it is, yeah, it's good. It's a good way to have whiskey.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Slowly but surely, we're turning into mixologists here.
Yes. And yeah, obviously we've already talked about character on Mad Men, but yeah, that's probably a spoiler right there, one of our own of a character that's coming up. But let's get into lead characters.
Let's do it.
And next one that I've got is Tami Taylor from Friday Night Lights. This is a character played by Connie Britton, and she's such a good character in large part because of what she's not, like what she could have been in a lot of other shows. She very well just could have been the loving, supporting wife, the traditional TV before the kind of golden age of prestige TV. She would have had her be kind of a wet blanket from time to time. And while her husband's off doing what he's doing, and she's just supporting him. But that is not Tami Taylor at all. Everyone in the show comes to her. She, there seems to be a theme on a few of the characters we've chosen. She's the real strength in the family and in the community. At the same time that she is supporting her husband and his career, she's also building her own career and just keeps getting better and better at it because everybody recognizes that she's the strength and people naturally turn to her. And inevitably, in the final season of the show, her career actually kind of starts to basically eclipse his. So even though it's a show about Friday Night Lights, it's about football, and he's the head football coach. By the end, in the final season, they're having to make a decision about, well, do we follow her for her career or do we follow him for his? She's tough. She's smart. She's caring, though, for everybody around, as I said, not just her own family, but really the community in general. I mean, not only just all the football players, but everybody in the school. She's a counselor at the school, and that job just comes naturally to her. That's what she is. But she could also be really sassy at times. Um, but she's gorgeous as well, and doesn't hide the fact that she's just an intelligent, beautiful woman. It's just a great character that's so much deeper than what this character could otherwise have been.
Okay, cool. I've never seen a single scene of Friday Night Lights, which is a
Wow. Okay.
it's a black mark on my record because I played football growing up and I liked the movie, but when it first came out, I was just like, it's a TV series based on a movie.
No, no,
And
no. Oh, it's so good.
I know, but while throughout the series, I found out that through various friends of mine that watched it, yeah, it's actually stands on its own and is actually better than the movie. It just, but by that point, it had already been 4 or 5 seasons in. I just never got into it.
Right.
But okay, so she wasn't like the Skylar or the Carmela Soprano type. She like apparently she just held her own, and that's cool to know. And it's
Yeah, and the relationship between her and Coach is a real partnership.
mm,
And I think one of the few marriages that you see on TV that it really is that. Like it
mm.
is just really just two pillars in an absolute partnership. And that only works, of course, with him being the head football coach and kind of what a lot of the football action centers around because she's such a strong character in her own right.
Okay, yeah, cool. Then we have Rodrigo Borgia slash Pope Alexander Sextus, played by Jeremy Irons in The Borgias, not to be confused with Borgia, which was a very shitty series that came out around the same time and which probably tanked this series, and I'll never forgive them for that. But okay, so Rodrigo Borgia is the patriarch of the infamous Borgia family, father of Juan, Lucrezia, and Cesare. His use of Machiavellian tactics, and Machiavelli was one of his contemporaries, and realpolitik before it was even a thing is legendary. His The papacy was basically just a means to an end, and his end game is power. His goal is to build a family dynasty in a Rome that is a shadow of its former self. and this is in the 15, actually right at 1500, and during the Italian Renaissance. Jeremy Irons is charming, charismatic, and even a loving father at times. He's a very well realized three-dimensional character.
It's such a good character because he is so conniving and just so willing to do anything. It's sort of the epitome of the ends justify the means,
Mm-hmm.
like no matter what. And as you say, though, it isn't almost a deeper goal. It really is just power for power's sake. But that's also in the time, that's what you do, right? That's sort of expected of somebody who's the head of a big family. Your role almost is to try to gain power for your family and influence in everybody around you. And there's no, at that time, no greater uh, position of influence than becoming Pope, which is what he's dead set on from the very first episode of the show. There's sort of a papal election, and he's pulling out all the stops in terms of bribery, threats, whatever he needs to do to get this position. So yeah, it's as you say, it's a very interesting role because yes, he's conniving, and yes, he's uh, almost villainous at times in how ruthless he is in seeking power, but at the same time, it is all for the benefit of his family.
Mm-hmm.
So my next one is not at all conniving. And this is Titus Pullo from the HBO BBC series Rome. And again, this is one of these ones where it's sort of hard to say in these ensemble casts who's the lead, but I really think he is a lead character in this. It's basically him, his sort of partner in crime, Lucius Vorenus, and then the head of the family, the mother of the guy who becomes Augustus. So he's definitely one of the leads. And with the Lucius Vorenus character, it's almost kind of a buddy cop type.
Sure. Oh
Like they
yeah,
start out,
100%.
they start out as they don't really like each other. They get paired together out of necessity, and then their friendship grows as the series goes on, and they're total opposites in many ways. And but he's always the more fun and more interesting character in my opinion. He's a man of many limitations, played by Ray Stevenson. He's that rises kind of in spite of himself. Like he's not smart. He's not from a noble family. He makes mistakes all the time, but he knows who he is and he's fine with it. Right? Like all these other people trying to grasp and claw and kind of like in the Borgias trying to reach the top and get power and all this kind of stuff. He really doesn't give a shit about that. This is a guy who's just trying to live.
Yeah.
And he's funny because of it. As I said, he makes tons of mistakes, but they're almost always honest mistakes. Like he does it just because he's trying to get by and do the right thing. It's not like he's trying to really screw anybody over or anything like that. He's just a funny character, a fun character, and in a world of power and influence, and he comes to get some of that in a weird way, but almost entirely by accident, just because he is this almost like dumb blank slate that people are using, but he doesn't really care. He's fine being used because he's just fine being himself. It's just such a great, fun character. And Ray Stevenson was fantastic in it.
Yep. And I never actively thought about that as a buddy cop relationship, but it totally is, and I'm
Mm.
sure that was one of the inspirations for the initial writers when they were coming up with this relationship. Because yeah, it is so just Lucius is too old for this shit, but yeah,
Yeah, always kind of depressed and whatever, and Titus Bill is always wanting them to have fun and enjoy
yeah.
life, and
Yeah. Titus is just so much fun in such a brutal world,
yeah.
and he got to bang Cleopatra, and
Yeah. Spoiler, maybe some of the descendants of the ruling house of Egypt were Titus Pulos.
Yeah, he was a blast though, in such a very serious series for the most part.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So then up we have Dexter Morgan, played by Michael C. Hall in Dexter. I'm only going to be talking about the original series because the spin-offs and prequels, sequels are just kind of mind-boggling and from what I've heard, not that good. Michael C. Hall was nominated for 5 Emmys for Best Leading Actor in a Drama. Uh, Such a cool concept for a character.
Yeah.
He's a forensic blood spatter analyst who moonlights as a vigilante serial killer, but he only kills those who quote unquote deserve it. Pedophiles, rapists, child murderers, and other serial killers. Now, the original series started to fall off after season 4, but it became laughably unwatchable in the final season 8. Still, the show was a great character study and raised some very interesting societal questions, like what can we do when the justice system fails us?
Mhm.
Who has the right to deal with heinous criminals who slip through the cracks? And of course, is killing in cold blood ever justified? So while an imperfect series, Dexter is definitely a worthy entry in our list.
Definitely. Yeah. And some of those questions that you mentioned, obviously, those are at the heart of the series and at the heart of the Dexter character. I mean, another question I guess you could ask is what is justice?
Mm,
And so what does it mean? I mean, is he giving justice by being a serial killer himself with his own version of a code where he's, as you say, killing people who thinks they deserve it? This is a show that I never finished. I only really watched about the first 2 seasons. I was always behind.
mm.
And then when I heard that it went downhill and ended so terribly, I kind of was like, well, I don't know if I really
Yeah.
need to set myself up for that. So I kind of dropped off after about the second season. But the character itself, as you say, just a very fantastic concept for a character and executed very well for most of for at least the 2 seasons that I watched and for a lot of the show as well. All right, my next one is Homelander from The Boys. Now we've talked about this character. Yeah, I keep forgetting to mention who plays them, but this is by Anthony Starr, and we've talked about this character so much last year when we were just on audio when we were recapping each of the episodes from last season. But he's this all-powerful person who is profoundly screwed up. He's a man with crippling insecurities, serious mommy issues, and effectively no moral compass. And it's really only a matter of time as the series goes on before he realizes that he doesn't actually need to listen to anyone who tells him what to do because he's all powerful. And that obviously is extremely dangerous because of all these other issues and because he's essentially a psychopath that just wants things the way he wants them and wants, even though, as I say, he's all powerful, he wants more control because he doesn't feel like he's been in control of his life for some good reasons. He's basically been controlled by a corporation since he was a kid. But that mix just makes for a fantastically interesting character
Hmm.
and a character who inevitably is going to, has already started to become kind of the main antagonist or main villain in the series, although it's a series that really doesn't have good or bad characters, but he essentially has become that. But it's the way he gets there and the inevitability of it, but how interesting and morally complicated his personality and psyche is that just makes him such a compelling watch.
Yeah, he reminds me of Joffrey if he grew to adulthood and had superpowers, and
Right.
that's not a bad thing. Well, I mean, it is a bad thing, but it's a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, the in the last season there was a whole episode about his origin story and how he was raised as a kid or not really raised. And
Yeah.
interestingly, you feel bad for the little kid.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so one of the most evil psychopathic characters that we've seen over the past 20 years or so, if not ever, you understand where he's coming from a little bit.
Yeah.
And in a show like this, you wouldn't really anticipate that, but the character development that they went through is really, really impressive. And he's more interesting than Butcher and Huey, even though we love Butcher and he's a recurring guest and a friend of the show. Oh, cunt! But I can't wait to see how Homelander's arc finishes in the next and final season.
Yeah, there's the I think my favorite moment of Homelander is the very end of season 3. And again, not to give too much in the way of spoilers, but there's a moment near the end of that season where he's in a huge crowd of people, and just out of sheer like id and anger and just this burst of whatever, he kills somebody who's heckling him. Oops. And the crowd loves it. And the look on his face as he realizes that his darker inner impulses are things that can actually appeal to people, that he doesn't need to hide who he is just a tremendous character moment.
Yeah, that's the most dangerous thing anybody could have done to him. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
And then next up, we have Sherlock Holmes by Benedict Cumberbatch in Sherlock. So Cumberbatch was nominated 4 times for Emmys for Outstanding Actor in a miniseries or movie. The Emmys and Golden Globes get really like into the minutia of different categories. It's weird. Anyway,
Yeah.
but he's such a cool, fresh take on one of the most prolific characters in Western fiction. This character has been done to death. Everyone from Basil Rathbone to Will Ferrell has played this enigmatic British detective in one form or another, from varying results, obviously.
Yeah. I love Will Ferrell, but that was not one of the better efforts ever put on film. But
Cumberbatch's Sherlock is a modern take on the 19th century sleuth. He's flawed, definitely on the autism spectrum, but absolutely brilliant. And he's also quite charming and funny in a quirky, socially awkward kind of way. His interactions with both Watson and especially his brother Mycroft are endlessly entertaining.
yeah, his interactions with everybody, really, with all the other police officers, with the people in the lab. He's just a, as you say, it's taking the character as written by Arthur Conan Doyle and kind of examining, well, why would a character be like that?
Mm,
Or and then giving kind of almost superimposing psychological reasons onto that. And as you say, like maybe a bit on the spectrum, maybe a bit this and a bit that. And it just becomes just such a fully realized, interesting character, as opposed to just, oh, this really smart guy who's really observant. No, but why is he like that? What's behind all that? And then
yeah.
creating the character from that. And it's so fun and interesting. And as you say, he's got almost no social graces because he doesn't give a fuck, because maybe he's a bit on the spectrum, but also he's just so concerned with other things that in his mind actually do matter, that it just makes for a really fun and interesting character.
Hmm.
All right, for my next one, we are heading back to Westeros one more time. And again, supporting character, lead character. I think he's a lead character. And this is Tyrion Lannister, played obviously by Peter Dinklage. And this character can be summed up by something he says in, I believe, season 5, and which I had a t-shirt that said at one point. And that is that he drinks and he knows things. And this was a great character, that he's just witty and smarter than everyone else, but yet he's self-deprecating and kind of fatalistic because he understands what the world is because of who he is. He's somebody that his family never appreciated, in part because he was born into this world that likes intelligence and brawn and strength, and yet he was born a dwarf. And not only that, worse still, in the eyes particularly of his sister, his birth caused the death of his mother. And so he's this really interesting character that just enjoys the pleasures of life because he's smart enough to realize that they don't last forever.
Hmm.
And you mentioned a bit about what happened to Cersei and Jaime, his brother and sister, in later seasons. I think of all the mistakes that they made with the show in later seasons, reducing his character to just this hectoring person who kept urging caution was the most egregious mistake that the show made because his character was by far the best for the first several seasons. And you just didn't see any in the last couple seasons of the kind of interactions that he would have, for instance, with his cousin who is
Oh yeah,
sleeping
Lancel, yeah.
Lancel, who is sleeping with his sister, and how he's just torturing the kid because he keeps threatening to tell people and then getting them to do things. And just the way he talks to him, and he's just so much smarter and just running intellectual circles around everybody. You didn't see any of that in later seasons. He just became this kind of naysayer, like, oh no, don't do that, don't do that. Oh, we gotta be cautious. We gotta. That was not his character. So that to me was the most disappointing part of those later seasons. Well, there were a lot of disappointing parts, but to diminish such a fantastic fucking character through the first 5 or 6 seasons, to be fair to the showrunners, that's partly in the books too.
Yeah, oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like by the time he heads to Essos, there's a whole book where he's just basically wandering around Essos going, where do whores go? Where do whores go?
Hmm.
Which is fucking brutal. So George R. Martin, you're partly to blame for killing Tyrion, the great character. But the early years, he was just an amazing character and the standout of the show.
Yeah, he won 2 Emmys for best supporting actor throughout his run as Tyrion, but I think that was just like a technicality, really.
Mhm.
But like, obviously, the three lead characters were Tyrion, Jon Snow, and Dany
Yeah,
Targaryen. But
exactly.
yeah, it's funny. My primary note was he drinks and he knows things. So
Nice.
I knew you were gonna take that.
I
But
should have worn my t-shirt. I didn't even think about
yeah.
it.
But yeah, in the last few seasons, he's so browbeaten,
Yeah.
and plus he was counseling Daenerys Targaryen, and that has to be, you know, just a thankless job. And obviously, he was right in trying to rein her back in all her worst
Yeah.
instincts. But yeah, his scenes became so repetitive, especially when he was in Essos. And um, my final note on him was that they kind of at least kind of stuck the landing with him, and I can see that he would wind up where he is in the books, which we will obviously never see or read. But I think his character's ending is makes sense and is true to George R. R. Martin's vision, at least I guess you could
It's true.
say.
And to be honest, he went through a lot and maybe the character made sense organically in terms of what happened to him. His whole family basically tried to kill him. He ended up killing his father. But basically from that moment, and the unfortunate thing is that some of his best stuff was in that season 4 when
Hmm.
he's on
Oh yeah. Oh
trial,
my
when he's like
God.
some
Yeah.
of those scenes with him were just amazing, and some of the conversations he's having with his brother, with Pedro Pascal's character, and like just
Oberyn. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, Ober and Martell, with just these amazing conversations and this just incredible back and forth wordplay and all the stuff that made him such a great character to begin with. And then after season 4, it just really went downhill.
Yeah, the scene between he and Oberyn Martell when he was in a
Uh,
prison cell and Oberyn says, "I will be your
yeah,
champion," is will forever be one of my favorite scenes of all time in any
agreed.
medium. Just excellent. I actually just got goosebumps thinking about it. Okay,
Yeah, I
so
might have to go rewatch that tonight.
with that we'll move on because we are already running long a little bit. Okay, next up we have Tommy Shelby, played by Killian Murphy, who briefly mention when I was talking about Alfie Solomon and you were talking about Polly Gray and Peaky Blinders. Uh, so Killian was never nominated for a single major American award, and neither was the show as a whole, which was a fucking
Fucking
crime.
ludicrous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but even across the pond, he didn't even win a BAFTA.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not know that. That
so
is surprising.
that is 100% on the award givers because Tommy Shelby is one of the greatest leading characters of all time, and that's why we have him here. So Tommy is a veteran of the Great War, and he turned gang leader of the Peaky Blinders. And they're called that because they take their caps off and they have razor blades in their caps to swipe them and slice your eyes off. So Tommy is disillusioned with the world after being a tunnel digger slash, well, known by them as clay kickers for the British Army. He's
Sapper.
decided. Hmm?
They were also known as sappers back in
Oh,
the
okay.
day.
So he's decided that it's up to him to make his own lot in life for him and his family in the slums of Birmingham. He's smart, calculating, and loyal to a fault to his family. He's so layered, a broken man trying to find a way for the common man to ascend in a world where the aristocracy still rules, although, especially after World War II, aristocracy kind of crumbles in a very swift fashion. Uh, Plus, he's just so fucking cool. He has unlimited riz, as the kids say. He's got the drip as far as the wardrobe goes, and no matter how heterosexual you are, those eyes of his are nothing short of mesmerizing.
Yeah, as you said, this is an incredible character. In modern terms, obviously, he's a character suffering serious PTSD, and yet it's again, again reminiscent a bit of Michael Corleone, as you said, because he's not the older brother in the family, and yet he's the
Oh
one
yeah,
that feels the need to take charge, because he's the one that with the smarts, he's the one who can with the organizational mind. He's the one who can really get things done.
great point.
And it's just such a good character because it's layered on top of this trauma that he's suffered and that just continues to eat away at different parts of his being throughout the series, is whether it's his relationships with people, is the women that come in and out of his life, his serious trust issues, for again, all for very good reasons. Like, it's
Mhm.
all set up, it's all supported, it's all just such a well constructed character within the world that he lives. It's really, as you say, one of the best. Now, we haven't ranked these characters, but I think these last three, or maybe in the last four, the way we've done them ending up are probably the best characters of the 21st century on TV.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Because the next one, the second last one we're going to talk about, is Walter White from Breaking Bad. Obviously, played by Bryan Cranston. And to set the scene for Walter White, the very first scene we see him in is kind of a flash forward. He's stripped down, he's running through the desert in his underwear,
His, his tiny whities.
his tidy whities. And I think that's really fitting, though, because in each one of the 5 seasons, we're kind of peeling off layers and discovering more about what makes him tick. And this, along with the next one we're going to talk about, it's really a psychological study of a person
Yeah.
who, in this case, is just great at pretending to be someone else. But
Mm,
the best pretending job he ever did in his life is actually kind of in the times leading up to when the series starts, and that's to appear to be somebody who accepted his lot in life when clearly he didn't. And it just kept eating at him. And what ultimately causes him to veer off, and it isn't what we think it is in the first season. It isn't necessarily the cancer diagnosis. It isn't trying to support for his family. Those are all just pretexts.
mm.
And as the show goes on, we see that those are pretexts because we see the layers beneath. and what it is that's actually been driving him, and this arrogance and this need to prove himself, and this feeling that he's been ground down and not been given his due the whole time. It's just such a well constructed character, and just one of the most incredible characters that we have seen and probably will ever see on TV.
Yeah, that is so very well put, Martin. Because I was trying to put that into words when I was just making two or three notes about Walter White, but yeah, this this ambition doesn't come out of nowhere. It's always been eating at him. It's always been bubbling up inside, and he finally finds this outlet to express his talent. And
Yeah.
when he finally gets that opportunity, he just goes full bore.
Yeah.
And of course, he always says it's for his family, and he just wants to take care of his kid with multiple sclerosis and his pregnant wife. But no, and again, small spoiler, he likes it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And Vince
That
Gilligan
control and recognition that he's always craved and has never gotten. Yeah.
and Vince Gilligan, it's been said 1,000 times, but he always wanted to just turn Mr. Chips into Scarface. That was the premise for the show, and he did that. And Bryan Cranston is nothing short of a generational talent,
Wow.
especially in this show.
Yeah. Agreed.
So the finale, I think you guys, if you're keeping track, you can guess who we're gonna pick for this one. It is Don Draper, played by John Hamm in Mad Men. He was nominated for Emmys in 6 out of 7 seasons, winning his only one for the final season in 2015. I guess that was just kind of like a lifetime achievement. Just let's throw the guy one. So, where to
Yeah, more of
start?
a oh shit, how have we never given him one yet?
Yeah, exactly. So, where to start with Mr. Draper?
Oh,
The character was born Dick Whitman and was raised in a whorehouse. Because of this, he develops a, let's say, complicated relationship with women, pretty toxic to say the least. He winds up switching identities with a fellow Korean war soldier who's killed in action. He leaves his old life behind and assumes the identity of Don Draper. Draper is slick, put together, and the epitome of classically handsome. But inside, he's a broken man with massive issues that he suppresses with women and alcohol. And, you know, if I had that skill, I'd probably follow suit. Uh, so he rises through the ranks of the ultra competitive, ultra masculine world of Madison Avenue advertising to become a partner in the firm Sterling Cooper Draper Price. He's got it all on the outside, but he's a hollow shell of a man inside. Another great character study in one of the best shows of all time.
yeah, like Walter White, who we just talked about, he is a pretender and a great pretender. But unlike Walter White, I think he has no idea who he actually is.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
and I think a lot of the series is him searching for himself. If they, maybe that sounds a bit trite, but I think it's true. I think that is a lot of what the series is. He doesn't know, he's not Dick Whitman, he's not Don Draper. He really doesn't know who he is. And that struggle is what keeps him sort of throughout the series careening from one thing to another and sending him off on where he'll just go off to California for a few weeks and stay there, and because he's just searching for something all the time. And even the way the show ends, again, not, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but it's him sort of finding this epiphany. But we know, having watched the show, that that won't last either, right? Like there's that isn't going to be the end of it for him. It is just such an interesting character, and as you say, the relationships with all the other people in his life, the women, everything else. And yet what makes it again just an interesting character is that he's also, at the times that he's not totally fucking up his life, he has these moments of genius,
Oh yeah.
and he is incredibly capable, and that just makes for such a compelling character, because when he's on, there is no one better at the thing he does than him. Like those moments, the famous first scene in the first season with the carousel and things like
Hmm.
that. The moments or the it's toasted, these moments of inspiration and genius. That is again what makes him a compelling character. It's not all doom and gloom. It's that interspersed with this incredible bright shining light in the industry that he's chosen. That is just yeah, it's just such a unique and unbelievable character. And again, we didn't rank these, but these last few we've talked about are definitely some of the best characters ever put on television.
Yeah, and he is so dissociated and so separated from like normal humanity that he's
Hmm.
able to look at normal humans and decide and figure out what they actually want, which makes him such a great ad man.
Mm. Yeah, good way of putting it. Yeah. Yeah, he can sort of look dispassionately at the needs of other people because uh yeah, because he doesn't see himself in that same way as kind of belonging to everybody else. Yeah, that's
Mm.
very interesting. Very good point.
All right. Oh, thank you. So yeah, that's it. And we're going about an hour 15 now. So we'll cut you off there and hope you enjoyed. That was a really interesting conversation for something that we could have gone 3 hours on,
Probably. Yeah.
probably. But so next week we're gonna do miniseries. We're gonna stick with TV. We don't know if we're gonna do all-time miniseries or just stick with 21st century miniseries because we just haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. But it's gonna be miniseries. So uh like, comment, subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. And as always, I am Zach Miller. He is Martin Cook. And we will see you next time on the Unsolicited Film Reviews podcast.
Bye, everyone.